Hello and welcome to Scale War Machines and the second part of our World War I German helmet film. These are 1/6 scale resin helmets that were sent to us to paint. In the previous film, the first two of the helmets were painted, mostly with an airbrush. In this film they'll be finished off. But we'll also be using brush painting to good effect. You'll see us move between the 4 different helmets we were working on, as we did a bit of work on each, pretty much simultaneously. Leaving the first 2 helmets to one side, we grabbed the third helmet. This was going to have a World War I geometric hard-edged camouflage scheme. We'd already painted on some black lines using a Tamiya enamel pen. This made it easy to give crisp demarcation lines. Now it was ready for painting. The paints used were Vallejo model colour, which are simply excellent for brush painting. They are acrylic and offer a vast range of shades. Coverage and opacity are top-notch, and we can't recommend them highly enough. Using their dark sand and a fine brush, the camouflage was carefully infilled. To get the most out of these paints, you may need to dilute them slightly, if nothing else, to keep the brush moist and the paint flowing nicely. That aside, they make the task really easy. Fairly quickly, all the yellow was done with a neat finish and few brush marks. Next, Luftwaffe camouflage green was added in the same way, keeping the reference handy for guidance. This was followed by leather to complete the camouflage. As you can see, the finish is perfectly adequate compared to an airbrush, and the process was probably a lot quicker than masking and spraying. With these colours already out, it made sense to touch up helmet number 2, which was painted in the previous film. Helmet 4 was also brush painted at this stage. The same shades were used to create a strikingly different pattern. Because the colours are supposed to look field applied, we didn't mind the occasional brush mark or the base shade shining through a little bit. At this point it was decided to change the first helmet by adding a Red Cross medic emblem. Here again the Vallejo paints showed just how effective and easy it can be. They gave great coverage when we blocked out both the white and the red. Because they dried quickly, a second coat could be applied without delay, and touching up was a breeze. The red crosses were deliberately a bit ragged, and we showed some small dots of white spilt paint. Whilst here, we used the base shades to hand paint more chips and scratches. Before sealing with clear. With that done, the third helmet could be chipped using the hairspray method. You can see our previous video for how this is done, but a prior coat of hairspray under the colours reacts with water. Here an interdental stick is used to degrade the brush painted top coat over the hairspray. Because of the thicker coat applied by a brush, it's harder to get the chipping going, but that is actually an advantage, giving us the subtle level of chipping seen here. A coat of varnish or clear helps seal everything done so far. The fourth helmet was also chipped in the same way, before having black and brown lines painted in or touched up by brush. Next for another weathering stage, enamel washes. In this case a dark wash by Ammo by MiG was liberally applied. The ambition was to get a grimy finish. The wash was dabbed off here and there, and some rust was also added. Whilst that dried off, pin washes, in other words very precisely applied washes, were added to the other helmets using these colours, or the very useful streaking grime by Ammo. All the helmets received this pretty much at once. It's applied then dragged downwards with a flat brush moistened with thinner. The end result are subtle streaks. Once dry, Wilder's great weathering range was used to add small amounts of dust or rust all over the helmets. This was either misted on at low pressure to show a coating of dust, or stippled on to pepper the helmets in tiny specks of dust and rust. Tamiya enamel buff shade was also used to tone everything down to a dusty finish. Then an old favourite, Wilder's excellent murky water varnish was also stippled on with an airbrush set to very low pressure. Brush painters could achieve similar results by flicking the varnish or paint from a short bristled stiff brush. Run your thumb along the bristles to stipple paint onto the subject. By using the airbrush it's way more controlled, and drips and droplets of moisture can be added to the helmets. Here you can clearly see the effect. You can also use the same product to show water streaks or runs, and everything can be tidied up using thinner if needed. To depict worn metal, Umbral metal coat was sprayed around the helmet's edges and buffed to a metallic shine. Before using some Wilder graphite to achieve a final gleam. You can see this being applied with a paper blending pencil. And that finishes off our 4 World War I German Stahlhelms. That's all for now. We hope you find this video useful and that you've enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified whenever we release a video. Even though Google Plus is coming to an end, we'll be keeping our community open for the time being. We'd really appreciate a Facebook like, and of course you can also follow us on Twitter. Thanks for watching and bye.
Subscribe for our latest videos.